Saquon Barkley signing with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's dead to Tiki Barber, but he's not dead to us for fantasy purposes, because this has been, I think, one of the better landing spots. We talked about this, Kate, in the ideal fantasy running back landing spots. We like the idea of the Philadelphia Eagles. We had some other ones in mind. I think, Saquon Barkley would have fit in a number of places, but how are we feeling about Saquon Barkley going to the Philadelphia Eagles as your initial thoughts?
I'm liking it. Obviously, there's going to be, I think, a lot of scoring potential here for Saquon Barkley. I think, generally speaking, for a guy who has struggled on efficiency on an every down basis, of course, he has these plays where he pops off, but largely speaking, I don't think the environment in New York has been very conducive to efficiency on an every down basis. So I think this is going to be a huge upgrade here for Saquon Barkley. For as much credence as we want to give tush push, last year we actually saw DeAndre Swift, utilized often enough. I think inside the 5, inside the red zone, so not overly concerned there. My biggest question is how much usage we really project for Saquon Barkley as a receiver. And that's the only thing that has me being just a little bit more maybe tepid about this pairing than I would have thought at face value.
Yeah, that's fair. And Nate, how about you? Like Saquon Barkley, obviously we know that he's definitely capable of handling the rushing load and the receiving load. We've seen it over the past couple of seasons, right? When he's healthy, he's had at least 250 carries. He's had 50 targets. There's more touches, I think, that are going to be spread around in this Eagles offense because they just have better receiving weapons than the Giants. I don't think that's much of a question there. So what are you looking at as far as what to expect from Saquon Barkley, as far as his overall workload, including the receiving down work in Philadelphia?
Yeah, the more I researched it, the more I started to like it. On paper, the most obvious contrast is the offensive line, going from one of the worst offensive lines in New York to one of the best in Philadelphia. The Giants running backs were tackled on the backfield at one of the highest rates last year, where the Eagles were one of the lowest rates, and that's a trait that has more to do with the offensive line than the running backs. So I think that will really help Barkley improve his efficiency because he won't be getting tackled in the backfield so often, and he will have that room to make plays like he was earlier in his career in New York. So I think that was huge for him. I think in terms of receiving potential, comparing how many targets and receptions running backs had in both backfields last year, it was more similar than I thought it was. So I don't think his receiving production will get hurt all that much. The big thing was the tush push. And yeah, from the 5-yard line, Swift had plenty of runs. But if you look specifically at the 1 or 2 yard line, it was almost all Jalen Hurts. So that's a little bit concerning. But also the Giants last year, they weren't having runs from the 1 or 2 yard line all that often. So just comparing his production last year to what it can be this year, I don't think it'll hurt him in touchdowns too much. And with Jason Kelce retired, they might not be doing the tush push as much because of how good he was at blocking on those plays. So if the Eagles offense isn't as good as at the tush push, then that could lead to more Barkley running at the goal line.
Yeah, I'd expect him to still be heavily involved there. And yeah, the touchdown totals, I'm not overly concerned about them. I mean, there's definitely, like you said, the Jalen Hurts, he's going to get his touchdowns, right? He's got, I think, even more so than what Daniel Jones offered. But yeah, I still feel pretty good. Like this is a spot where I think, at least for me, like initial, like kind of gut feeling as far as where I'd be looking at him. He's still an RB1 candidate for me in Philadelphia, that top 12 range, potentially higher. I don't know if you guys feel any differently about that.
I think from a volume standpoint, that seems really reasonable. From an upside standpoint, I still have those sort of hesitations because obviously we're looking at Saquon Barkley, who like this free agent market was super active with running backs, but he is aging. He is up there in terms of total touches among active running backs. So like always keeping that in the back of your mind. But I think largely speaking, this move should be like, even if you took away some of his volume as he starts to age, I think it should be conducive enough to some efficiency that we're looking at an RB1 pretty much out of the gate, pretty safe.